Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're getting into the actual mechanics behind ISO 14001-2026. If you've ever wondered how the world's top organizations manage their environmental impact out in the real world, and not just on a piece of paper, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to completely decode the standard to see how it builds what we call an accountability loop. Picture this for a second. An environmental manager taps a screen, transmitting real-time emissions data through a digital reporting dashboard directly to a senior executive's tablet. It's this incredibly seamless, instant transfer of critical information straight from the operational floor right up to the boardroom. Now, you might be wondering, is that just really shiny software, or is it proof of a perfect environmental management system? Well, according to ISO 14001 in 2026, this kind of instant data transmission illustrates something much deeper. It shows incredibly clear reporting structures and genuine management authority. Let's actually unpack how a system is built to make that exact moment possible. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to hit 1, the dashboard motif, 2, defining true boundaries, 3, integrating processes, 4, roles and authority, 5, the authority gap, and 6, driving real impact. Let's dive in. Starting with Section 1, the dashboard motif, which really is proof of a healthy EMS. That executive dashboard represents the absolute pinnacle of governance. Why? Because, as the standard emphatically points out, environmental management must become a totally embedded part of organizational processes. The data on that tablet didn't just magically appear out of thin air. It's the end result of robust systems that are capturing every drop of water, every kilowatt of energy, and every emission across the whole company. Moving right along to Section 2, defining true boundaries. Looking at ISO 14001-2026 Clause 4.3. So before any data can flow, you obviously have to know what you are measuring. A lead auditor is going to instantly spot an artificial scope limitation. You literally can't just exclude your heaviest polluters, like say your massive high-emission logistics fleet, just to make your numbers look pretty. You can, however, have justified exclusions, like excluding a fully independent subcontractor over whom you have zero operational control. Your boundaries absolutely must reflect environmental reality. To do this right, a truly accurate scope has to account for physical boundaries, like your actual buildings, organizational boundaries, like departments or joint ventures, operational ones like manufacturing, and even functional boundaries like strategic planning. If you cherry pick and leave out a procurement department or a specific manufacturing line, you're just feeding leadership incomplete, distorted data. Which brings us to Section 3, integrating processes under Clause 4.4. Environmental data shouldn't be lonely. It should not sit in a silo. It needs to be happily integrated directly into your core business operations. We're talking about baking environmental criteria right into procurement platforms for supplier evaluation, plugging those metrics into your ERP systems, and making sure your strategic frameworks are considering ecological impacts right alongside financial costs. Because look, if your environmental department is the only one looking at this data, that kind of fragmentation is a massive red flag for an auditor. It's exactly what ISO 14001 calls an integration failure. Think about it. If a production manager is pushing for higher output while completely ignoring the environmental manager's emissions warnings, your system just isn't integrated. Everyone needs to be working from the exact same operational reality. All right, Section 4, roles and authority, drawn from ISO 14001-2026, Clause 5.3. Thinking about a RACI matrix is a brilliant way to see how this works in practice. Notice how responsibilities are distributed everywhere, rather than just dumped on one single person. The environmental manager is responsible for monitoring, sure, but the plant director is ultimately accountable. It weaves environmental performance right into everyone's job description. It's a shared goal. And here is the kicker. This delegation of authority must be formally documented. You cannot rely on a casual verbal agreement to keep an eye on the waste bins. You need digital workflow approvals, official letters of authorization, and formal responsibility documents to prove to an auditor that someone actually holds the organizational power to make tough calls. Next up is Section 5, the authority gap. This is a fatal flaw you really want to watch out for. So what happens when all that structural setup is basically just a mirage? You run into the authority gap. This is a literal system killer. It's when you tell an environmental manager to fix a massive emissions issue, but you give them zero power to actually stop the production line. Or you tell them to overhaul waste management, but give them no budget to change vendors. It's responsibility totally divorced from authority. This perfectly highlights the core difference between symbolic compliance and integrated accountability. Symbolic compliance is just filling out a form when a spill happens and hoping for the best. Integrated accountability is giving a lab supervisor the actual, documented authority to halt unsafe waste disposal right there on the spot, without needing to go beg for permission from a boss who only cares about speed. Finally, Section 6, driving real environmental impact. To bring it all together, an incredibly effective EMS relies equally on these three pillars: accurate scope boundaries, so you actually know what you're measuring; deep process integration, so the data moves freely through the business; and genuine executive authority, so people can actually act on the data. Together, they complete the accountability loop. If even one piece is missing, the whole thing falls apart. And that brings us full circle right back to our dashboard. When that environmental manager successfully transmits live, real-time emissions data directly to the executive's tablet, it's not some corporate gimmick. It shows incredibly clear reporting structures and management authority. It's data pulled from true operational boundaries, flowing effortlessly through integrated systems, and backed by undeniable authority. It's literally ISO 14001:2026 in action. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought to take back to your own organization. Does your environmental management system just exist to pass audits with symbolic compliance? Or does it possess the true integration and authority required to actively drive change? Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer today. Keep learning, keep improving, and I will see you next time.